Hello students, welcome back to our class. We are going to start a lesson today that is about skeletal system, that how it helps in locomotion and movement of different bones and joints in our body. So this is a part of human physiology and anatomy only. So we were running with this lesson where we have covered about nutrition also, and digestive system has been completed. Now this skeletal system will be started. So let's start this session, and this will also be dealt in several parts. So what is about a skeleton, and what is a skeleton and how it helps in movement and locomotion? First, let's understand this. Most animals, these are characterized by a definite shape and the capacity for movement of different parts of the body. So because of presence of different appendages present in the body of an organism, nature has designed the body of an organism according to the needs and according to the movement required by that individual. The shapes and body organization has been designed. These movements, they also help the animal in locomotion, like movement from place to place in search of food, in search of mate, any reason. And these functions are performed by the skeleton and the muscles together. So this is also an integrated system where muscles, bones, joints all work in conjunction with each other. What is a function of a human skeleton? So it is basically needed for 6 main purposes: support and shape. The skeleton first of all provides a support or framework to all the soft parts, and it gives the body and its parts a definite shape. So because of the presence of a proper skeletal system consisting of bones, it provides a framework, it provides a geometry to the organism. Imagine if you didn't have small pieces of bones, that is phalanges, in your fingers, would you be able to hold something, or would I be able to hold this pen if I didn't have phalanges in my hand? So that is not possible. Everything has a single role. Every single bone, or small or larger, is having a role in our body. So an example of shape and support: just hold your ear, try to fold it and then leave it free. You can do it for yourself. It resumes its shape. Now feel its interior. It's tough but it is flexible. So this is because of the cartilage skeleton, which is a soft bone inside it, which is giving it support as well as the shape also. So this is just one example being mentioned here. And then the other purpose of a skeletal system is protection also. So several delicate and important organs, these are well protected by a casing of bones. For example, the skull, it protects the brain. So skeletal system is required for the protection of all the internal organs as well. Like skull is there for protection of brain. The vertebral column, that is backbone, it protects the spinal cord. Rib is there to protect the heart and lungs, and so on. You can mention many examples. Then third purpose is movement. Many bones are joined to each other in a manner that one bone can be moved on another. These movements are brought about by muscles which originate on one bone and are inserted on another. So this is also one of the way where this skeletal system is required. Leverage also. Some bones and joints, they form levers that increases the speed and distance of movement with the help of a muscle. For example, contraction of only few centimeters by the biceps muscle swings the hand swiftly through an arc of more than a foot, right? Then formation of blood cells. Certain types of blood cells, including red and white blood cells, are formed in the tissue of the central hollow space, or it is also known as bone marrow, or simply marrow of some of the long bones. So that helps in the formation of the very important component, that is blood cells. Then the last function, the bones are storehouse of calcium and phosphorus mineral ions that provides the strength to the bone, so it is required by rest of the body. Constituents of skeleton. So our skeleton, it consists of bones, cartilages and ligaments. So these are the 3 main parts which constitutes a skeletal system, and we will be dealing with these 3 parts one by one. Bones comprises the hard framework of the body, whereas cartilages are supporting and connecting structures, like cartilages supporting the projecting external ear and the tips of the nose. Then ligaments are present which binds the bones together. So that is why it is always said bone to bone ligament is present and bone to muscle tendon is present. We will deal with these 2 terms as well. So bone now. Bone is the chief component of our skeleton. It consists of organic and inorganic material. The inorganic part constitutes nearly two-thirds of the entire bone substance, and it includes mainly components of calcium and phosphorus. So the inorganic part in a bone is these two mineral ions. If a bone is placed in a weak HCl, the mineral part is removed from it. That means it will get dissolved in it. There will be a simple displacement reaction and the remaining organic framework is left behind. Such a bone is then called decalcified bone, where calcium is removed. Calcium plus HCl reaction will be taken place, and calcium is more reactive, so it will displace hydrogen. Calcium chloride will be formed. So that calcium is coming from the bone. So bones will be decalcified. And it is soft and flexible, which can even be tied into a knot then. So depending on the functions, these bones are categorized as four, like long bones are there, short bones are there, flat bones are there, and irregular bones are there. Irregular bones have complex shape. They vary in amount of the bone tissue, that is the content present in that bone. They are compact and spongy like the bones of face and vertebral bones. Then there are flat bones. These are composed of two or more parallel plates of compact bone which encloses a spongy bone in it. Like there is a shoulder blade bone, then skull, sternum. Short bones, these are box-like and they are spongy bones. They show very little movement. These are present in the wrist and ankle. Whereas these long bones, they consist of a shaft with a knob at each end. Shaft is thick and it is walled also, and it has filling of yellow marrow which are having ends present in the marrow and are spongy, and they include bones of arms, hands, chest, etc. So on the other hand, if a bone is strongly heated, see, when HCl was added, it was decalcifying the bone. Calcium was removed from it. Now if we are talking about what happens to the organic content, so if you heat the bone is strongly heated, then organic matter gets oxidized. Organic matter is made up of carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen elements only. So that is a hydrocarbon, and hydrocarbon is being heated. That means air is being supplied. So an oxidation process definitely is going to happen, and only the mineral part is then remain behind. Such a bone turns brittle and then it quickly breaks. With age, as in old people, this organic part of the bone is reduced and the bones become more fragile, more prone to fractures, and taking much time in rejoining also if there is a fracture. So classification of bone on the basis of shape, we have just seen that long bones are there, short bones, flat bones, and then there are irregular bones. So we have seen those structures. Now one by one we'll deal with, like this is an example of a long bone only. So structure of a typical long bone, that is thigh bone. Thigh bone is the longest bone present in the body, that is femur, and it is known as thigh bone only. It is highly calcified, mineralized, and it is hard and rigid connective tissue. It's a very strong and can withstand several stresses also. It consists of bone cells which are known as osteocytes. Osteo is the term for bone only, cytes means cell. So bone forming cells. These are arranged in the form of a concentric rings embedded in a ground matrix in which collagen fibers, mineral salts, calcium, phosphorus are deposited. So this femur thigh bone attaches the pelvic region and the knee joint, and together there is in the middle this bone is present. So this is the structure being shown, that this is having yellow marrow present inside, and it's a hollow also. Hollow in the sense it is filled with this yellow marrow and the connective tissue present in it. Hyaline cartilage is there. The external surface of the bone is covered by a membrane which is known as periosteum, which consists of outer fibrous tissues and inner cellular layers are there, rich in blood supply. A long bone has a hollow cavity in the middle, which you just saw, which is filled with the bone marrow, the yellow bone marrow. Marrow is of two types, yellow marrow, and it is made up of adipose tissue, that is fat cells only, and blood vessels which give rise to white blood cells. So there is formation of white blood cells from the yellow marrow, and the red marrow which is present at the ends, these are utilized in producing red blood cells. So these are the ends which are having red marrow. The human skeleton altogether it consists of 206 bones, whereas when an infant is born it is having more than 300 bones. But as it grows, the infant, the bones gets fused together and ultimately it ends up at 206 only, including 3 very tiny bones in each ear, that is the bones of the ear which are incus, malleus and stapes. It gives a detailed region-wise breakup of the total number of bones in the human skeleton. You can easily count these 206 bones. The skeleton has two main divisions, the axial skeleton, which includes basic central framework of the body, and the appendicular skeleton, which includes the bones of the limbs and girdles. So ahead we are going to deal with the axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton in this manner only. So axial skeleton. The axial skeleton, as I said, is consisting of the central framework. So there will be skull, vertebral column, ribs and the sternum. A skull now. It is a skeleton of the head. It contains two parts. The upper top part of the cranium is the layer or the brain box. It is made up of 8 bones which are so joined to each other that they are permanently fixed. The other part of the skull, it forms the face, which contains total 14 bones, and in the cranium part there are 8 bones. The upper and lower jaws are also formed by some of these bones only. The back part of the cranium, it contains a large hole and the foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord, after emerging from the brain, continues behind the backbone. So there is vertebral column then after this. So vertebral or spinal column is popularly called as the backbone only, and it is composed of total 33 ring-like bones called vertebrae. So these are again divided into 5 groups according to the regions they occupy. The neck region has then 7 cervical vertebrae, then there are 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar and 1 sacrum where fused 5 bones are found, and 1 coccyx is there where fused 4 bones are present. Vertebral column is curved to maintain the balance of the body, erect position. It maintains the posture of the body also, provides flexibility to the body also. The curve absorbs the pressure and shock while walking, running, protects the column from breaking. Structure of vertebra. So each vertebra is somewhat ring-like structure. 33 rings are present, right? And it is divided into 4 to 5 divisions. Its lower part, front in the actual position in the human body, is formed of solid cylinder of bone known as centrum, or it is the body of the vertebra. The two opposite ends of the centrum are flat, and on the dorsal, that is the back side of the centrum, is a neural canal formed by the union of 2 neural arches arising from the sides of the centrum. In natural position, the spinal cord runs through this neural canal only, that is from the dorsal side, and neural spine is a flat longitudinal ridge projecting upward from the meeting point of the 2 neural arches. Transverse processes are thick sideward projections from the neural arches. These neural arches also bear articular facets, that is the joints are there, one in front and one behind on either side, which help in joining the 2 vertebrae and one behind the other. So there is a pad of cartilage, intervertebral disc is also present, so call it gristle, which forms a kind of cushion between the 2 vertebrae to protect it from the shock. Neck and cervical vertebrae. The first cervical vertebrae is the atlas. Second vertebra is the axis. The remaining 5 neck vertebra, they do not have any special name. So only atlas and axis are the names given to the earlier 2 bones, top bones present in the cervical vertebrae. Rest are having no special names. The thoracic vertebrae now, they have long neural spines which are directed backward. So each of their transverse processes, they bears on its extremity a facet for articulation with the tubercle of the rib. So because ribs are present there, so these are there to protect these ribs, and there are hollow cavities present to provide the articulation, that means aeration or free movement around it. Lumbar vertebrae, they have well developed neural spines and transverse processes which serve for the attachment of powerful back muscles. Then there is sacrum, which is one large bone formed by the fusion of 5 vertebrae. To it are articulated the hip bones on either side. Coccyx is the last part of the backbone, which is made up of 4 fused vertebrae, which represents the rudimentary tail also of the human body. So sometimes infants are born with this tail and then it gets degenerated as the body shows growth. Sometimes as a freak of nature, babies are born with a small tail which the doctors usually remove also. Then in axial skeleton, next part after this is ribs. So there are 12 pairs of ribs which along with the thoracic vertebrae and the breastbone constitutes the bony cage or the rib cage. So these are present in the thoracic vertebrae only. The first 7 pairs of the ribs, which are called true ribs, these are attached in front to the sternum, that is the breastbone, with the help of hyaline cartilage. 8th, 9th and 10th pairs of the ribs, they do not articulate directly with the sternum, but they join the 7th rib with the help of hyaline cartilage. The last two, 11th and 12th ribs are pairs which are not attached to the sternum. They are kind of therefore known as floating ribs also. This is also one of the pet question being asked many times, that what are floating ribs and which one are the floating ribs. Then sternum, which is a breastbone, is a long flat bone lying in the middle of the front part of the chest. Now after axial skeleton, next will be appendicular skeleton, which consists of limbs and your girdles, the bones present in these two parts. So bones of the limbs, that is hands and legs only. So bones of forelimbs and hind limbs. Forelimbs are about hand and hind limbs is about leg. They largely correspond to each other. The forelimbs consist of single long bone, humerus in the upper arm. So your hand is divided into two parts where the upper portion is having long bone, humerus, and then in the next just below it are two long bones again, which are radius and ulna. So these are present in the lower arm, the radius on the side of the thumb and ulna on the side of the phalanges. That is fingers only. So 8 carpals or wrist bones in the wrist are present and 5 metacarpals, that is in the palm, they are present. 14 phalanges are there, you can count it on your fingers, and 2 in the thumb and 3 each in 4 fingers are present. So in this way you can easily calculate the forelimb consists of how many bones. There is 1 long humerus, 2 lower arm bones are there, and then there are 8 carpals in the wrist bones which constitute it, and then 5 metacarpals, then there are carpals also, which are phalanges. The hind limb then, in the same manner, it is then consists of the longest bone, which is thigh bone, femur, and in the thigh there are 2 long bones also, inner tibia and outer fibula. In the shank, 7 tarsal bones in the ankle are present, where you have seen that there were 8 carpals in the wrist, but here 7 tarsals present in the ankle, 5 long metatarsals bones which are present in the middle of the foot, and then again 14 phalanges, just as those which were present in the fingers. 2 in greater toe and 3 in each toe of the other 4th toe. The hind limbs, they have an additional bone which is known as patella or the kneecap, which is joined to the lower end of the femur. Kneecap is a bone which is developed from a tendon, that means muscle is also involved here. Then girdles. So these girdles are the parts of the skeleton which help to articulate the limb bones to the main axial skeleton. It helps in easy articulation. There are 2 girdles, shoulder girdle and the hip girdle. This is shoulder girdle, and this where pelvic region is attached, that constitutes the pelvic girdle or hip girdle. The shoulder pectoral girdle, it consists of 2 flat triangular scapula, which is nothing but your shoulder bones, and which lie dorsally on the upper ribs on either side of the vertebral column in the thorax region. Its outer apex, it bears large, somewhat a cup-shaped glenoid cavity into which fits the round upper head of the humerus. So it's a glenoid cavity from where the humerus top portion is attached. Now closest to this joint, the shoulder blade has a small raised part to which a long curved collarbone clavicle is attached. The other end of the collarbone is joined to the uppermost part of the breastbone, that is sternum only. The hip pelvic girdle then is a large trough-shaped part formed by two hip bones which are joined medially to the sacrum. Each hip bone is made up of three bones to the ilium, ischium and pubis, and these are the bones which are present in the hip region. On each side it bears a large cup-shaped articular cavity, acetabulum, into which fits a large round head of the thigh bone only. So the hip girdle, it not only gives support to the skeleton of the hind limbs but also supports the abdominal region or abdominal organ. So with this we will wind up the first part of the skeletal system. We will meet again, and in the next session we will be discussing about the joint muscles topic from this lesson. Thank you so much.